So welcome everyone, bienvenidos a todos, bienvenue à tout le monde. Welcome to today's webinar, the last of a series of 3, in case you have joined us for the other 2. Today, the theme of our webinar is financial education and social justice. How do we deliver on ILO's mandate? I am Yousra Hamed, and I work for the International Labour Organization based in Geneva, and I'm also the coordinator of the ILO's global program on financial education, and I am also joined by my 2 colleagues, Sophie and Ines, that you will hear from later on, perhaps. The ILO, as you might know, is the UN specialized agency that is responsible for the world of work. And even though at the social finance program of the ILO, where I belong, we do work on facilitating access to finance for the different target groups of the ILO, we do so with the ILO mandate in mind. And the ILO mandate is summed in 4 words or 2 concepts that are social justice and decent work. So you might wonder, what is this social justice that we are talking about? So let me quote the Philadelphia Declaration, which is the ILO Constitution of 1944, that says that a society is socially just if all human beings have the right to pursue both their material well-being and their spiritual development in conditions of freedom and dignity, of economic security and equal opportunities. So, and this theme of social justice is precisely what our 2 guest speakers today from 2 different countries, 2 different continents, speaking 2 different languages, but they will be speaking to you in English today. They will tell us about through the main focus of the interventions that they are leading and that touch on 2 aspects of social justice. One is the elimination of bonded labor and human trafficking, and this will be Maria Pia from Peru. And the second aspect of social justice we will be touching on is the fight against child labor, and this will be Alan talking to us from Côte d'Ivoire. So before I give them the floor to tell you more about themselves and their work, let me tell you a couple of things. So first, you would have noticed that there is a Q&A button at the end of your Zoom screen, and this is the question area. So please ask your questions, and we will try to either answer it right on the spot by writing, or we will forward it or give it during the webinar for one of the speakers, so that they can answer you at the end, hoping that time permits. Another thing I wanted to tell you is that if you are interested in financial education in general and in ILO's work in financial education in particular, please subscribe to our knowledge products in the link that Ines will be sharing with you in the chat very soon. So with this, I give the floor to our 2 amazing panelists, Maria Pia Hermoza from ILO in Peru and Alan Beugré from the Ministry of Economy and Finance of Côte d'Ivoire. So the floor is yours to tell us about yourselves and the initiatives and interventions you are heading in your countries where financial education is prominently featuring. So Maria Pia, the floor is yours.
Good morning. Thank you, Yousra. Thank you for the invitation. My name is Maria Pia Hermoza. I work with the ILO. I am National Officer of the Project Against Child Trafficking in Peru. The project began in 2017 within the framework of a Child Protection Compact partnership funded by the U.S. Department of State. Its objective is to enhance the Peruvian government's capacity to eradicate child trafficking. Its actions seek to improve the capacity of the criminal justice system to investigate, prosecute, and convict traffickers, provide specialized care, protection, and reintegration service for victims, and promote public and territorial policies to combat this type of modern slavery.
Thank you very much, Maria Pia, very clear and spot on the social justice, the theme of today. Alan, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. My name is Alan Beugré. I'm working for the Ministry of Finance and Economy. And I'm in charge of the relationship and the partnership at the Agency for the Promotion of Financial Inclusion. And I'm also in charge of implementing a national financial inclusion strategy in Ivory Coast. That's what I can say right now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So you were mentioning, both of you, I mean, from the institutions you are working on and the interventions you are working on that are for Maria Pia is really linked to this social justice aspect and to the human trafficking of adolescents. And for Alan, you are coming from the Ministry of Finance and Economy, from this specific agency that is dealing with financial inclusion. So one of the questions that come to mind is, what is the link between social justice, or one of its components, and financial education? So I'll start with you specifically, Maria Pia. The objective of your project is to end children and adolescent trafficking, as you rightly mentioned, by working with judges, the legal system, bringing traffickers into prosecution, building capacity of your national, the partner national institution. So you have started with this social justice objective as the main objective of your project, but how did you come to realize the importance of financial education, and how do you see it benefiting the young vulnerable population with whom you are working?
I would like to highlight that we are focused on young people in their transition to adulthood. Victims of child trafficking and forced labor usually arrive at the shelters when they are adolescents, but they have to leave when they turn 18, and most of them are in situations of greater vulnerability without the capacity to access decent work. We have been accompanying the institutions and have learned firsthand about the challenges of socio-economic integration on these survivors, as we are of the impact produced by the application of ILO decent work methodologies. In this case, we had several work sessions with the Social Finance Office, with the support and the support of the enterprise specialists. We were able to prepare a comprehensive intervention model to work with adolescents about the minimum age for employment since 2022. The main component of this model is to build capacity within the institutions so that their staff can help young women develop financial education skills. This is the first experience in Peru and in the world where these methodologies are implemented with this vulnerable group. It was very enriching to learn about so many successful stories in the world when vulnerable people develop financial skills. Like I said, we selected 5 methodologies. IM's approach to inclusive market systems to generate knowledge on labor market sectors that have potential for entrepreneurship and decent work, opportunities for adolescents, young survivors of trafficking. The second is gender and entrepreneurship, get ahead, inclusive local economic development, responsible business conduct, and financial education. In the case of financial education, the TOT strategy to train adolescents, girls, and young women to make informed decisions about finance was a great choice, because the girls have never had access to this information due to the exploitation suffered before arriving to the shelters. In many cases, young trafficking survivors were deprived of economic resources for long periods of time, leaving them without the necessary skill to administer money and plan their financial future. Financial education helps young women understand the basics of financial management, such as budgeting, debt management, saving, and investing. It can also help them complement the development of entrepreneurial skills and explore professional options that will allow them to earn an independent income. Traffickers and exploiters undeterminate the rights and dignity of adolescent girls and take advantage of their vulnerability that results in young people with insecurities and low capacity to success in the world. Financial education provides them with the key information. It's so important to have in mind that about these financial resources to help them build a better future. This training also helps them recognize situations in which others could take advantage of them. Like I said, a simple question such as, what are your goals and how much money do you need to achieve them? It changed the young women's perspective about life, because they almost never ask themselves this question. They begin to plan, and this motivates them. In addition, knowing and understanding about income, expenses, and savings contributes to develop skills that will help them achieve economic independence when they age out of the shelters. For instance, if a young girl aspires to be a fashion designer, she will understand how much she needs to invest in her studies, and with help from reintegration programs, of course, this can be achieved, allowing her to reduce the risk to be re-trafficked.
Thank you so much. So yeah, I definitely see your the interest for you for financial education is coming really from building this overall economic capacity of these young girls that are that got out of trafficking and of slavery, so that they understand, one, they build their future, they plan for their future, but also that they are aware and they don't find themselves tricked again by traffickers or by others. Thank you so much. So Alan, for you, the relationship is the other way around, because APIF and the Ministry of Finance, your main activities are...
I can hear you.
Okay, do you hear me now? Yes.
Yes.
So because APIF and the ministry, your main activities are around financial education and inclusion, how did this social justice dimension here, the child labor elimination, seem to you a good complement to the financial education messaging? How did you think that talking about child labor when you are talking about financial education was a good or an additional positive addition to the messaging for your beneficiaries?
Okay, thank you. What I can say is like talking about child labor in Ivory Coast is a really big topic. So most of the region where we have like some case of child labor is in the rural areas. So it was really obvious for us to be able to team up with ILO to be able to work on that situation through financial inclusion and financial education in those areas. So this is what we did, and we had like different studies in those rural areas. We chose like 2 cities, one in the west side of the country called Sobre, and another one in the east side of the country called Mbato. And after all those studies and those focus groups, we were able to know exactly what are the needs in talking about financial products, and also about financial education for those targets. So after the studies, we were able to know exactly what we could be able to do with ILO to be able to get the results about increasing the rate of financial inclusion in Ivory Coast, and also be able to fight against child labor. So that's exactly what we did. So so what we did is to be able to develop like some modules of financial education for the targets in rural areas, and also to be able to work with the financial institution to develop some financial products and services for the vulnerable population in those cities. And as I can say, for us, having like only some financial products and services adapted to the target are not enough. We have to be able to do improve the financial capacities of those targets to have a result. And this is what we did, and we were able to have like some financial education modules and work with other stakeholders like ANADERS is like one agency from the Ministry of Agriculture in Ivory Coast, and we were able to use the digital platform also of the ANADER to be able to do the diffusion of message of financial education to the target. So it was a really great experience, and we were able also to give like some message on child labor to the target. That's what we did.
Perfect. Thank you, Alan. Yes, so definitely, I think if I understood you well, is that through these studies that you have done, and because you know that child labor is extremely present within the agricultural rural sector of Côte d'Ivoire, you found that financial education can help you to address one of the major root causes of child labor, which is poverty. And as Ministry of Finance and Economics, reducing poverty is also one of the things that you are pursuing. You started hinting towards one of the innovative things that you have been doing in Côte d'Ivoire. So actually both of you in your interventions have adopted a unique and innovative approach on how to share the messages with your target group. And Alan, you started talking about your work with ANADER, that is this digital platform linked to the Ministry of Agriculture that is providing agriculture counseling to farmers digitally through their phones without them being even smartphones. And what you are starting to mention is that you have added to this platform financial education plus child labor messaging to raise the awareness and to also train the farmers. So can you tell us a little bit more how this collaboration worked with ANADER and whether you have started reaching out to farmers?
Yes, that's a pretty good collaboration between ANADERS and APIF, because we are both like two agencies of two different ministries, but we're still working for the government. And what we did is to be able with all the stakeholders, so all the structure, the NGO working on those areas, to be able to work on some a message of financial education and also some message of awareness for child labor. So after this step was done, we worked with ANADER to be able to translate like all those messages in local languages. So we have those messages in French, in 3 different languages, which are Malinké, Moré, Ani. So after that step, we went to those areas, worked with the different cooperative. So, and then there we were able to select some targets. As soon as we have like all the numbers of the different targets, ANADER was able to first sensibilize all those targets to explain why we are doing that. what will be the benefits of listening to those messages. And then after that, they use the digital platform to diffuse like all those messages. So the target will receive like during the day probably 3 calls, and then after all calls you have like other calls back concerning the quiz. So with the quiz we'll be able to know exactly if the target really understood the message it did listen to the first time. So why we choose the digital platform is really important, because with the digital platform there is no human interaction, and we are able to have like the different statistics. So we are able to know which one were able to listen to the whole message, which one was able to which one listened to one thematics, if it's about the credit, if it's about insurance, if it's about child labor, and everything. We have all the statistics and all the data we need to be able to adjust the messages and to be able to target other targets, I can say. So right now we did like a pilot, and for the pilot we were looking for 1,000 people, and right now only in Sucre, where we targeted 500 people who were able to work with approximately 350 cocoa farmers. So everything is going well. So, and we are right now working on the report to see how we can recalibrate all the messages and see at what time it will be really practicable to get the remaining targets. So that's what I can say right now concerning the project.
Very interesting. And I think, as you rightly mentioned, that the choice of a digital platform to share and to diffuse this message is that the outreach is huge, and that you have minimum human interaction. Perhaps you have used and you have built on the relationship that ANADER has already with the farmers, and because they already know the platform, they know and they have trust in this platform, then you can piggyback on their work and you can have the outreach of all what ANADER reaches as farmers. And as you rightly mentioned, this intervention was done in the framework of the Axel project implemented by the ILO. And I am sure that you know that in Mali, they have also done the same type of intervention, financial education with child labor messaging through digital platform. And in 9 months, they have reached 500,000 persons. So your pilot, I'm sure it will expand, and after you tweak the messages after this piloting phase, I'm sure that the outreach would be as interesting as well. So I turn to you, Maria Pia, on also this unique and innovative approach. And for you, the innovation lays within the nature of the target group. So adolescents rescued from trafficking, hence extremely vulnerable. And this is the first time actually the ILO is providing financial education training to this population. How did you go about it, and did you take any special precaution vis-a-vis their vulnerability, but also the fact that, okay, they are young adults as well?
Yes, indeed. These adolescents are survivors of trafficking or forced labor, which are forms of modern slavery, and they are overcoming a traumatic experience. They come from poor dysfunctional families and have severe and differentiated traumas due to the sexual and or labor exploitation to which they were subjected. They were rescued and they then received in the public shelters that the ILO helped to improve. So we were sure that these facilities were adequate and had staff prepared to take good care of them. The measures taken were First, the intervention was discussed with the public sector specialists in charge of the shelters, and some measures were established for its implementation, such as the participation of key staff such as the psychologist, social worker, and educator in the activities to provide support and containment if necessary. The intervention will always take place in the shelter facilities around the girls' schedules, and any person who will have contact with them should have been previously trained. In addition, with the support of the social finance program, we conducted 2 testing of the methodology with the trafficking survivors. These were conducted by 2 female professional certified trainers of financial education, led by the international consultant Gustavo Prepelici. They received a training on the profile and characteristics of the groups. Then the trainers conducted the testing with the survivors. They verified that the exercise proposed in the financial education student guide worked well as the information on credit repayment capacity. At the beginning, they found that several adolescents constantly repeated, I am not good in math, for example, when doing the math exercise, which were simple for young people with complete schooling. But in the case of survivors, they were intimidated. However, the hands-on approach made the fears gradually disappear, and survivors were able to learn. Likewise, some aspects that need to be adapted for a better understanding of the contents were also identified. Additionally, some recommendations were developed to complement the trainers and student guide. The educators of the shelters were selected and trained so that they could be in charge of training the survivors according to their functions and competencies, besides guaranteeing proper care for the adolescents. This contributes to the sustainability of the training process. At the end of May, 8 educators will participate in a certification workshop as trainer after having carried out 3 training of their own. So finally, final education is complemented by the efforts in entrepreneurship and employability that the project carries out, and has a huge support from multiple public institutions, municipalities, and civil society organizations, which also receive the TOT and pledge their support to the shelters.
Thank you for this answer and for these really nice pictures, Maria Pia. So I see that, I mean, usually the financial education, when we deal with a new target group or a new country, we adapt to the target group and the country, adapt the content. But here it is also being extremely vigilant on the choice of the trainers and on how the message is crafted so that it does not hurt, or it goes well and it is well received by the survivors. So the adaptation is not only about the content, but it's also about how we are going to give this message and by whom. It's extremely, yeah, it's really, I mean, I think it's, and we can also see from the pictures you have showed, the first one that you have showed, is that also the girls or the boys, we cannot see them from the face, so we see them from behind. And so we are also, even in your communication, I think your communication material, you are, yeah, careful about what to show and what not to show. Okay, great. That's really nice, and to hear about these two innovations from the two projects. So I know that both of you you have been involved at the grassroots level talking, seeing, meeting with your the beneficiaries. So is there anything, can each of you share with us a comment, a testimony, something that you have seen, you have witnessed, that you think represents the impact that we are all looking for through this intervention? So I'll start with Alan and then you, Maria Pia. You are muted, Alan.
Okay, sorry. Okay, talking about what I've witnessed on the field is just by talking with some of the targets who really listening to those messages of financial education, and also working with another stakeholder who's one financial institution in this area of Subre. So they're able to, we were able to notice that some of the targets were able to get some credits just on time to be able to buy some inputs. And that was really different from the situation before. So we're probably sure they will be able also to get some credits to be able to pay the labor of the worker for the production of cocoa. In that way, we're pretty sure we will be able to fight child labor in this area. So the fact that those farmers are going to a financial institution to get the credits is really an improvement. And we are pretty sure that financial education will have like a really good impact to improve like the revenue of the farmers, and also to help us fight against child labor in our country. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan, for this nice example. So Maria Pia, the floor is yours.
Yes, there are definitely many testimonies, both from young women and trainers, that show the impact of financial education. But I would like to share a recent one. Patricia arrived at a shelter in Lima at the age of 16. She was very poor and came from a rural area. She was abandoned by her father and lived with her mother, who sold food in the street and worked as a farmer. Patricia ran away from home, and later the authorities found her in a house of strangers where she was a victim of labor exploitation. Last year, Patricia received financial education and entrepreneurship training by professionals from a public shelter and the NGO Alternativa. She aged out the shelter when she turned 18, went back to live with her mother, and opened her own business, a small shop where she works together with her mother. The financial education trainer shared Patricia's stories. The idea of, says Patricia, of working in something that makes me and my family feel proud and secure, and the possibility of saving money to work for a better future gives me hope. This is empowerment.
How moving. Oh my God, when you witness something like that, you just realize how powerful the work you are doing is. So that's really great. And it is actually also you are getting interest from the listeners, from the participants, and you have a question from Omo Korede. So if I can, I will, so there are many questions, so I will share them with you one by one, Maria Pia. So she's asking if you can share more on the format of the financial education training targeted towards children. How long was the training for? If you wish, you okay. You can answer in Spanish, and I will share in English.
Okay. la primera etapa de esta capacitación, el testeo, duró aproximadamente de 2 a 3 meses de preparación. Esto porque significaba revisar toda la guía de formadores y la guía de estudiantes también, y significaba todo un trabajo de capacitación previa de las formadoras certificadas que irían a capacitar en los albergues, en los shelters, y luego propiamente el desarrollo de la capacitación con las adolescentes. Después de este trabajo hubo una retroalimentación, porque este trabajo fue guiado por el consultor internacional, y después de esto se hicieron algunas adaptaciones y se creó esta guía. Entonces estamos hablando de 3 meses de preparación y luego no paramos hasta que se realizó. Este trabajo empezó más o menos en el mes de junio, y en octubre empezó, a finales de noviembre empezó la capacitación a los formadores, y todo el proceso está durando hasta este momento. Vamos a tener en mayo, a finales de mayo, a las 8 primeras formadoras y formadores que van a ser evaluados para su certificación, y esto nos llena de orgullo.
Okay, thank you. It was long, so I'll try at the best I can. So, Omokorede, the Maria Pia is saying that the first step was 3 months of preparation to test the content, to adapt, to revise the content. And then they have organized the TOT for the social workers, followed by the rollout. So the whole process started in June of last year, and it lasted till November. And now in May, they will be having the TOT certification. You asked, just to also some clarification, you asked, because we had also this discussion, Omokorede, you were mentioning, and I see that you were mentioning and asking about children, financial education for children. So these are considered as young adults. And we have had a discussion with Maria Pia and her team about whether this is adapted or not. And we realized that the cutoff age was really 16 and above. So most of the young adults that have received the trainings, I think, are 17 and 18. So it is not for children, even though we are talking about adolescents / young adults. So another question also from Omokorede, the continuation of her question: what aspects of the course was shared with them, and were you able to get them engaged throughout the training? You want me to repeat, Maria Pia?
Yes,
so
please.
What aspects or what sessions, what subjects of the course have you shared with the beneficiaries? And were you able to get them engaged through the days of the training?
Se usaron todos los aspectos, todos los módulos del curso, realmente sí, pero fueron adaptados, ¿no? Los ejemplos surgieron continuamente de la propia realidad de las adolescentes. Hubo una adaptación del lenguaje sencillo, pero básicamente los puntos que más les interesaron fueron aquellos relativos a los intereses que podían pedir los bancos, el sistema bancario, o incluso un sistema no formal al que posiblemente ellas tenían mucha más claridad, ¿verdad? Aquí en Perú, como en muchos lados, hay muchos prestamistas informales que cobran en dinero, pero mucho más del dinero que fue prestado originalmente. Pero cuando ellas se daban cuenta de esa deuda grande que podían ser acreedoras, se preocupaban mucho, pero a la vez decían qué importante es que yo conozca acerca de estos aspectos, ¿no? Y los requisitos para el sistema bancario, y también los riesgos de no pago, de sobreendeudamiento, y definitivamente lo que más llamó su atención desde el inicio fue esas preguntas de cuál es tu objetivo en la vida, y qué necesitas hacer y cuánto debes ahorrar para lograr aquello que quieres.
All right. They have in Peru, they have touched on all the modules that are in the ILO financial education program. So the ones that we all know, from setting your own objectives to budgeting to the different financial services that we have, so payments, savings, credit, insurance, as well as dealing with the formal financial institutions. The thing is that the case studies, the exercises, they were all examples from the own realities of the young survivors. For example, on credit, they were both touching on the formal side, so banking and the relationship to banks, as well as the informal side, so the things that they are most used to and that they hear about. And actually, the beneficiaries, they realized that they needed to know the banking system, even if they didn't use it before. They needed to know and to understand what it means. If I take a credit, how do I commit myself if I am indebted to a bank, and so on and so forth. So the last point from Omokorede is, how did the beneficiaries, so these young adolescents and young adults, how did they accept, or how did they go? How did the training go with them? Did they enjoy it? Were they bored? So yeah, because with young adults, perhaps we all, and Omokorede is also a financial education trainer, and she's used to train entrepreneurs, women entrepreneurs. So she probably is wondering, are they, because these are young people, is the fact how they accept the training is different or not?
Un aspecto importante mencionado fue la participación de la educadora, de la psicóloga, de la trabajadora social en este proceso, quienes conocen a profundidad las motivaciones del grupo, de las adolescentes. Entonces, respetando la confidencialidad, esto fue también, ellas promovieron que en el momento de trabajos en grupo, ellas hablaran acerca de estas motivaciones, ¿no? De hecho, las motivaciones principales de las adolescentes provenían de ahorrar o de aprender todo ello para ayudar a sus familias, aún porque siempre, aunque se encuentran en una situación de desprotección familiar y de explotación, hay algún referente familiar positivo, algún hermanito o hermanita pequeño, la mamá que está enferma, la abuelita, alguien que les motiva, que guía esa ilusión y esa motivación, y es eso lo que fue optimizado y tomado como un recurso poderoso para que participaran y participaran activamente.
Thank you. So the fact is that in the trainings, besides the trainer, you would also find the psychologist, the educator, the social worker, and this would increase the motivation and the trust of the beneficiaries in the training. And they would open up and have discussions within the group exercises and the case studies. And what Maria Pia says is one of the main motivations that they had is how to save to help their families, and how to act as a positive as a positive guide for their families, for younger siblings, or how to help if the mother is sick or ill, or how to help a grandmother, a grandfather who is also old. So this seeing themselves as positive factors within their families is something that is motivating them very much. Thank you, Maria Pia, for the answers and also for the questions. I don't know whether you would like to say something else, Alan, if you have something to share, additional something to share.
Hello?
Yes, we hear you.
Yes. Okay, what I can say is maybe the next step in our program is to be able to do a training of trainer, because instead of the digital platform to give some messages of, or to diffuse some messages of financial education, we'll be able also to have like some kind of formation, some sensibilization with news target and in person. So that's also really important. So that's the next step of the program for financial education. And what I can say also is that it's really interesting to see that those targets are going down to the financial institution, because they used to have like a really bad experience back in the days dealing with the financial institution. So it was really important to send those messages of financial education. Now they can understand, and they are able also to take a decision, and they are able to know if a financial product is really adapted or is really a good product for them to use it. So I think that's what I could share with you guys. Thank you.
Thank you very much. No, I think it's extremely interesting also to see this link between financial education and financial inclusion. And this is also the way when we were talking about by reducing poverty and by reducing these root causes of child labor, but also of bonded labor and of trafficking, we can act on reducing these negative aspects of social justice. And I think it's also interesting, Alan, that you are mentioning that from big outreach, but light outreach through the digital messaging, you are going to dig further with smaller outreach, but deeper outreach with face-to-face training and TOT. And at the ILO, we definitely believe at the complementarity of these two approaches. Sensitization campaigns, yes, but if really we would like to arrive towards changing the behaviors of the people, then more time and effort that is spent with the beneficiaries is needed. Thank you so much, both of you, Maria Pia and Alan, and I am sure that participants will also join me in thanking you for this insightful contribution and this wonderful time we spent together. For all participants, thank you for joining us this afternoon live on this session, but also if you are watching the recording. So we are approaching the end of our Financial Education Month. I mean, I'm sure that you knew that this webinar was in the framework of the ILO Financial Education Month. So this webinar will be the last one. If you have missed the two first ones, make sure you keep in touch by either following us on LinkedIn. We have the Social Finance Program LinkedIn page, or by subscribing to our knowledge products in the link that has been shared earlier by Ines. And you'll be directed to the recordings and to many other more resources from the ILO on financial education. Thank you again, Maria Pia and Alan. Thank you to Ines and Sophie, who have been helping in the logistics. I wish you all a wonderful morning in Latin America and a wonderful afternoon in the rest of the geographies of the audience. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much.